Something odd and unexpected was discovered by researchers when they were studying the Titanic shipwreck. The ship's bow was in excellent shape at the bottom of the water, but its stern, which was located 2,000 feet away, was in terrible shape. Iron and steel do really decay after hundreds of years at the bottom of the sea. But why is there such a big discrepancy between the front and the back of these two if they were both a part of the same ship that sank at the same time? Scholars surmise that the Titanic had an additional incident that night, apart from colliding with the iceberg. This further damaged the ship's aft portion. Still, it begs the question, what was it? Greetings, viewers, and welcome back to zaintv's films from the night the Titanic fell in 1912. At the time, it was alone in the middle of the Black Sea, 700 kilometers from Newfoundland, Canada. There were 2,240 passengers on board at the time of the incident. 1,500 of them perished. The person dubbed unsinkable soon gave in to the force of nature and the murky depths of the ocean. The only people who were able to jump off the ship into the chilly Atlantic Ocean were the accident's eyewitnesses. The only people having access to the record of everything that occurred, from the ship's collision with the iceberg until its sinking, were the eyewitnesses. They were battling the chilly water themselves. An hour and a half after the Titanic sank, the RMS Carpathia, the first rescue ship, also reached its destination. It was also lucky that the emergency message from the Titanic reached them. If not, none of the people struggling to survive in the chilly water would have made it out alive. Furthermore, nobody would have been aware of the Titanic catastrophe. Nobody was originally aware of what had happened to the ship during the investigation. However, survivors later said that an iceberg had struck the ship. Upon observing the iceberg that was still at the scene and on which the Titanic's crimson paint was still visible, these claims were verified. According to the inquiry report, following the accident and after examining eyewitness accounts and available data, that the Titanic's right side had a 300-foot hole caused by the iceberg. This indicates that a third of the Titanic's side was ripped apart. However, another eyewitness claimed that the ship took almost 2.5 hours to sink. According to investigators, the Titanic should have sunk in a matter of minutes rather than 2.5 hours if the iceberg had indeed left a 300-foot gash in it. However, none could have known the reality at the time. Locating the Titanic ship was essential to learning the truth. For many years, there was a hunt going on for the Titanic. And the enigma grows increasingly serious with every year that goes by. The discovery of the Titanic catastrophe, 73 years later, was a major turning point for the maritime sector. The time had arrived to address every query that the Titanic had left unanswered. The Titanic wreckage remained in utter darkness for decades at a depth of 4,000 meters in the Atlantic Ocean. Numerous trips were planned, and a ton of pictures of the shipwreck were taken. P.H. Nargilette, an ocean explorer, has made over 30 trips to the Titanic wreckage. However, he never once spotted the 300-foot hole. On the other hand, a 30-foot section of this Titanic profile picture suggests that something had struck here. Merely 11 square feet make up its area. Additionally, studies indicate that about 370 gallons of water might fill the Titanic per second. If the ship were to fill with water at this rate, it would take around 2.5 hours to fill the whole way. Additionally, witnesses report that the Titanic sank in around 2.5 hours. The fact that the Titanic didn't have a 300-foot hole has therefore been resolved. Instead, there was just a 30-foot long fissure. However, this was not the sole enigma. There was still plenty to discover. This was beyond the comprehension of specialists studying the Titanic catastrophe. How come the bow, the front portion of the ship, was in better shape than the stern, the rear portion? And why are the two separated by such a great distance? The enigma was solved with the aid of cutting-edge sonar scanning equipment. Hundreds of thousands of images of the Titanic wreckage site were taken by ROVs. and then used computer graphics to transform them into a 3D model. At this level, neither a standard camera nor the human eye can perceive the features that this model had. The 392-foot-long stern's decks are all nestled inside one another, as seen in the model, as though it were a paper ship instead of a steel one. Dispersed about are various sections that have come apart from the ship. It is only equipped with 2 house-sized engines. There is one more significant hint concealed in this model. The indicator that indicates this stern state. When the ship's stern struck the water floor 110 years ago. Thus, its remnants can only be observed with a 3D model and are still present today. These scars indicate that the ship was turning counterclockwise when it struck the water floor. These traces suggest to scientists that the stern was submerging at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour at that particular moment. The pressures created by the water led the ship's loose sections to break apart when the rear section of the ship plunged deeply into the ocean at such a high speed. And all of its decks fell into one another as it struck the ocean floor 4 kilometers below. However, as you can see, the bow section's design is hydrodynamic. In other words, it can cut through the water with ease, just like a ship may carve out a channel by dividing the water as it floats. Because neither the water forces nor the bow section were directly assaulting it, this is the reason why it was not spinning in comparison to the stern. Lastly, a riddle surrounding an occurrence that occurred 110 years ago has also been solved. However, there's still another query that has to be addressed. When did the Titanic ship split into 2 halves is the question. As you are aware, an eyewitness said that the ship had broken in 2. It has long been thought that the Titanic split into 2 halves prior to her sinking. While most of this news is accurate, it is not the complete story. It submerged when the bow section flooded. As a result, the pivot point, or center, was bearing the full weight of the stern portion. This central point cracked and split into 2 pieces because it was unable to support the weight. However, the sonar-scanned 3D model presents a different picture. Indeed, the Titanic's equipment may be seen strewn all across the ocean floor. It consists of dinner dishes, deck seats, chandeliers, coffee mugs, and even individual people's possessions. Approximately 90% of these objects are from the stern category. Over 10,000 things are dispersed over this region. It is around 3.2 square kilometers in size. This indicates that the debris would have covered an even greater area, 3.2 square kilometers, when it reached the ocean floor if this piece had been isolated from the bow section above the water. As this animation also demonstrates. Experts thus think that this part broke too soon. However, it diverges from the front portion by becoming closer to the seabed. Then, as it continued to rotate, it veered off course and dropped almost 2,000 feet. The RMS Titanic's body has entirely corroded now. According to scientists, oxygen is extremely rare at ocean depths. For this reason, corrosion likewise proceeds very slowly. However, while extracting and testing certain rust samples, it was discovered that the cause of the rust is the oxygen generated by bacteria. Experts predict that the Titanic's floors would fall on top of one another in the next years due to the speed at which it is rusting. After then, it will never regain its former shape. I sincerely hope you like and spread the word about this zaintv video. I sincerely appreciate your warm words. I'll see you in the amazing next video.